I'm Tony Sklar with bnetTV. We are here at the Broadband World Forum in Amsterdam, and I am speaking with Mr. Steven van Zanen from BroadFoward. How are you today, sir?
I'm fine. Thanks for having me, Tony.
No problem. My pleasure. You and I have been friends for many years, have had a chance to speak for many years, but we're talking about a brand new company now. So why don't you give all the people out there in bnetTV land a good overview of BroadFoward and what you're doing?
Well, okay, BroadFoward is a company that specializes in service enablement in LTE, particularly IMS. As you know, there's a lot of carriers spending a lot of money on LTE, expanding their broadband and bandwidth. And what we really do is put a lot of additional focus on how they can do service enablement effectively with all the assets that they have and the new ones combined.
So that is definitely a fragment that exists within the market space right now. The carriers can roll out the LTE as fast as they want, but they're still limited by how fast they can actually do it. And why do it? Why get the CapEx in there if there's others that they can bring up? You and I talked off camera a little bit about, I don't want to call them dead assets, but they were when they were legacy equipment. Now they have the ability to bring those back online to relieve some of the pressure.
Well, yeah, I mean, what carriers are really looking for is services on LTE, right? Offering access to LTE and a nice device with a certain performance is one thing, but what everybody's talking about is what are the exciting services? These shared data plans in the US are a great example, but you got all sorts of other stuff.
OTT particular plans as well.
Over the top particular plans, you got the Mac billing coupled with Skype, for instance, as an example. You've got Wi-Fi offload as a capability, cloud services. So all of that integration stuff that needs to be done, as such, has not much to do with the LTE itself.
Right.
But how do you monetize the assets that you got, and how do you integrate it all while you're introducing all new protocols like diameter? But in truth, carriers have many assets. They've got SOAP clouds, they've got SS7 clouds, they've got SMPP cloud. All that stuff needs to work together to make a single use case work. That's where an enormous amount of hidden costs are. And to be perfectly honest, you don't hear a lot of vendors talk about this.
No, you don't. So expand on that for me.
Well, your vendors have to be compliant in order to win the business. So if a carrier says, are you compliant to these interfaces, they'll invariably will say yes. But they cannot take responsibility for a use case that goes through 3 layers of the network, right? It goes from IT through the control layer, policy control, subscriber management, all the way down to DPI, HLRs, SSS integrations. So who owns that stuff? Who makes sure that these things actually are integrated properly? And that's what BroadFoward has created an interface for. It's called the Interface Gateway. The Broadband Policy Gateway is the name that we have given it. And what it really is a productized way of connecting systems together, solving incompatibilities, and making a time to market improvement that is unheard of in our industry, because you're no longer purely dependent on an individual roadmap of a carrier or delays at certain parts in the network.
Is it like you're taking a film and sort of scanning the entire ecosystem within a carrier and saying, okay, here are all your assets, now let's talk about some crosstalk that you've got here and how things are inevitably going to flow?
Yes, I mean typically an integration project is between systems, right? You get the large ones where they're complete migrations. What we're talking about is how do you enable certain use cases that might have 18 touch points?
Right.
And those 18 touch points, right? Each of those touch points can delay between 6 and 12 months. It's not, it's not uncommon for a carrier to say time to market is my biggest issue, and therefore costs go up.
And they got to bring that down to consider ARPU against the user, because I mean, whether it's summer or winter, maybe they got to turn up the juice over here on the beach, and then they got to turn it down in the winter.
Yes. So. In most cases, they'll just say, leave it.
Right.
It's not worth the effort, even. But even small, adaptations in a protocol can, you got use cases in a billing that could cost you $1 million. And in these days, no carrier is going to do that anymore. So, and even if they do, it's going to take a long time. So what our interface gateway does, it allows a carrier to have a central gateway that avoids the crisscross of untransparent connections. It supports anything from SOAP to XML, HTTP, Radius, SS7, TCP/IP, SMPP, and it allows it to talk to each other and enrich it with all sorts of functions that aren't even available to these protocols if you'd have it done the static way. So it will really help service enablement and in the end innovation if you do it that way instead of leaving it to each individual connection.
So what are some of the challenges that you see in the next 12 months that these carriers are going to have that you can help inevitably solve?
Well, everybody talks about innovation and in particular LTE, but it applies to 3G, all I just said. But the truth is, how many real innovation, except for shared data plans, which I believe is a fantastic way.
No question about it. AT&T has finally got a good shared data plan out, and yeah, and I only say that because I am an AT&T customer, and I'm like, we need more.
Yes, but I wonder how long it took them to actually get it up and running. Right? I think it's been a major effort, and to adapt or change it will probably be a major effort again. So, all we're saying is there's a way of doing it way more efficient, cheaper, faster, and with control that the carrier has over their vendors. And actually the big advantage for vendors is that they don't need to spend an arm and a leg on creating interfaces that they probably won't need again, right? Because it's done for this particular use case. Let them focus onto the core business of delivering their PCF, their DPI, their HLR, and let us deal with the interfacing capabilities. That's really what I want to be. And to be honest, any vendor out there that requires interfacing can come to us as well. And it will immediately open up their compliance in a major way.
Steve, why is it important to be at venues like this, like Broadband World Forum?
It's for BroadFoward, system integrators, vendors, and operators are our customers. For a system integrator, they're looking for business in this space. They'll come to these shows to meet their customers. So for us, it's a can't miss opportunity, and particularly the LTE events, the broadband events like this one, they're key for us to be.
Fantastic, Steve. Congratulations on the new company. Right place, right time, great market space.
Thank you. Yeah, really excited.
Fantastic. I've been speaking with Mr. Steven van Zanen of BroadFoward here at the Broadband World Forum in Amsterdam for 2012. And I am Tony Sklar with bnetTV.